Alice is here from the Student Cross. Is it what's the organisation called?
It's Student Cross.
Student
the
Cross.
organisation, yeah.
And Alice is going to talk to us about the Student Cross and the relevance of the Student Cross and the pilgrimage which they do every year, isn't it?
It is every year to Walsingham.
To Walsingham, yeah. And so, what I'm going to do first, Alice, is I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us a little about your life around the area or wherever you live before we go into the main question.
Absolutely.
So, it's all yours. Go ahead.
So I was born here, grew up here in Huntingdon, so I'm nice and local. I then went to Newcastle to study for 3 years. I did English and history. I'm now a full-time musician back in Huntingdon, getting involved with the music scene here. So completely different to what I'm going to be talking about tonight, but it's nice to see how those two things fit in with each other.
Brilliant. So let's start then, shall we? What is the Student Cross all about, first of all?
So Student Cross started as a pilgrimage from London to Walsingham in 1948. It was an all-male, very Catholic pilgrimage, and everyone had to carry their own luggage. Think Duke of Edinburgh style. Today there's 11 different groups called legs, and they start their pilgrimages from different places in England, but we all meet in Walsingham on Good Friday. Most importantly, we don't have to carry our own kit anymore, which is nice. And along the way, we normally stay on church hall floors. We meet so many amazing communities. And this is the only activity, I think, where we walk some of the groups over 100 miles in a week. It's a long way. And yet I have put on weight from the amount of gorgeous food these really generous parishioners often give us along the way.
Good, that's how it is. So how did you actually get involved in it in the first place?
So both my parents did Student Cross when they were students. They met in Manchester and they walked on one of the legs together. As the organisation evolved, they included 2 family legs to accommodate children. And I attended this when I was little with my 2 younger brothers as well. I've kind of grown up with Student Cross and what it is, it's to celebrate Easter, so it's through the whole of Holy Week, arriving on Friday, and there's one year that I didn't do it as an adult, and I missed it so much. The next year I was so keen to get back involved, and since then I've led a couple of the groups, which is a lot of work, but very rewarding, and working with such an amazing community is absolutely fantastic. I've learned so much. I couldn't imagine my life without it. Anyone that you speak to who's done the Student Cross pilgrimage has a very similar story. It's a bit mad, but it's such good fun, and we just enjoy it so much. Yeah,
that's good. Now, a lot of people, I'm not saying have a misconception of what a pilgrimage is, but just for the record, can you put us, what is a pilgrimage?
So I Googled it and looked up the actual dictionary definition to help me with my answer here. So I found that it's a journey, especially a long one, made to some sacred place as an act of religious devotion. So in this case, we are walking to Walsingham as a place of pilgrimage. But I think the most important thing about Student Cross is the relevance of the journey, not necessarily the destination, because you're sharing your life with these people in very close proximity for a week. You get very close, you build lifelong friendships. I've met some of my best friends, and that's why it's so important. It's not only your own personal pilgrimage, that you develop your own spirituality no matter what your beliefs. Some people are Catholic. I was raised Catholic, but it's evolved more to include not only other parts of the Christian church, but also people who aren't religious, who have different beliefs. To be honest, anyone who is open to the concept of Student Cross is welcome to come with us. That we do pray, we do go to church, we do those kind of classic parts, but more than that, it is a community that has this pilgrimage together. Physically and metaphorically.
Yeah, it's a case of friendship then, in other words,
yes,
isn't it? It's just
absolutely,
friendship, making friends along the way. And the original pilgrimage wasn't for students, correct?
I believe it was a chaplaincy group that walked. And then, now it's evolved so that it's not just students. I mean, the name is something that has come under debate in recent years because, one of the years that I was leading, we had someone who had just turned 18 to someone in their 60s. I mean, we had the full spread, but you don't realise because everyone's so close. Age is just a number in this case. If you can get involved, then you can walk. It's not a case of if you're a student. I mean, my youngest brother is a young professional. He doesn't. He's not a student, but he still walks, for example. Or people who have retired still get involved. They still walk. It really is anyone.
Now, I'm going to ask you a very, very pertinent, I'll not say personal question, but a very, very pertinent question. Why do you carry the cross?
So I should have explained earlier, each group has a full-size cross that we carry with us. It's a sign of witness of our faith. Like I said, anyone can join in and you don't have to carry the cross if you don't want to. But it's a witness to our faith and a sign that we're all sharing the burden. It's a really powerful message, especially in times of contemplation. I mean, we have times where we're all singing, all dancing, all, getting our way there. But sometimes we do take time to reflect. And Easter is a very important time in the church calendar. And so it is wonderful to think about that time of Easter. It's a difficult thing to carry, the large cross, besides the fact that it is very large. But it is shared. We take turns as we're walking. We have 3 people carrying it at once. Yeah, really clear sign of what we're doing, I think.
You said that the 1948 was the original Walsingham pilgrimage. But since then, there have actually been quite a few more, what you call them legs, do you not?
Yeah, almost like when you're walking, you have legs to a journey, and different legs. The legs in this case are just the groups. The next oldest one is Northern Leg, which started in 1949, so quite soon after, starting from Nottingham. Since then, we've got Oxford in 1962, got Midland in 1971, Essex in 72, Kettering 75. And then it just kind of carried on with those few groups for a little while before starting Ely Leg, which is probably the most local, which started in 1996, and that's only walks for 3 days from the Wednesday to the Friday. So they meet on the Tuesday night, walk all day Wednesday, Thursday, and all day Friday. It's shorter, but a bit more challenging. And since then we also got 2 family groups that I talked about earlier. We had Peg Leg and Wells Leg. This was about 2006 and meet up on the evening of Palm Sunday. It's for all ages and families. A lot of the adults used to walk Student Cross when they were students and then ended up having children as one does, and still wants to be involved, but you can't take children on a long walk, so they have one base. Peg Leg used to be Kings Lynn, Wells is in Wells, and they do short walks and still do a kind of children's based liturgy, so it's more appropriate for families, and they still come into Walsingham with the rest of the legs in Walsingham and walking together, which is fantastic. And most recently we have Wensum Leg, which started in 2012, and walk slightly shorter distances. This is more for children of secondary school age. We realised that whilst we had everyone from 18 and over is accommodated for on the adult legs, and we had the younger families with babies and school-aged children, there was just that bit missing for teenagers who can't do the big walk and they're too old for the little one. They just needed their own space. Wensum has proved to be super popular and has worked really well and has definitely made their mark in the Student Cross community. Altogether it's evolving into a really fantastic organisation and community that is accommodating for everyone, no matter what age. I think we were saying earlier. We also have Easter Leg, which has been running for a really long time now and only walks on the Good Friday. It's for people who can't get the time off work, and also people who have maybe slightly older who can't walk the whole week, but still want to be involved. So there's been things put in place there to accommodate for those kind of people.
That's good. We talked earlier on about. I actually asked you when women started walking in the thing. So when did they officially get invited onto the? I can't remember that I asked you this, but what year did they officially start walking?
So officially, I'll just consult my notes. There we go, 1966.
Good.
Although previously there were some unofficial women, I think who's sneaked in. And I mean, it's one of those things, it's more about ability, not your gender. So it's fantastic. And we have, like I said, we do accommodate for all ages. And earlier we talked a bit about how we accommodate for all kind of the full breadth of spiritual beliefs as well, but also in terms of gender, we've got gender and sexual orientation. We've got the full, it's wonderful for the LGBTQ plus community to be involved. They're definitely a really valued part of Student Cross. And when people hear Christian, unfortunately a misconception is that some things wouldn't be allowed, say, but it's just not the case at all. It's a very I would say liberal. It's a good way of taking the church outside. It's bringing it's a witness to your faith, and also showing other people what the church is about. We're not shut in behind closed doors anymore. We're showing everyone what we do and how we celebrate Easter. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah. So, of all the places that you do the pilgrimage to, sure. you chose Walsingham. So what's so special about Walsingham?
So in 1061, a woman called Richardis had a vision of the Virgin Mary appearing to her on 3 occasions. Over time, it became known as England's Nazareth, and it became as popular a place to go on a pilgrimage as places like Rome. So it, especially for people within England, but also people from abroad. It's somewhere that's tucked away in Norfolk that people don't really hear about. It's a very, very small little place. But it's really special to Student Cross, and we do make it quite busy over Easter with so many people arriving there. It's now, I think, very much, I mean, the place is still so special, and we still have people undertake pilgrimages today, maybe with their church groups especially. But for now, for Student Cross as well, it's so much about the journey as well as the arrival in Walsingham. And we're so grateful to all the churches in Walsingham that accommodate us as well, for all the people who make space for us and accommodate quite a special group of people arriving and with their own little routines as well. So we're really fortunate that we get that space to travel to. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Now, you mentioned it just there. You touched on it. I forgot to ask at the beginning or during the questioning, asking you the question. Is it only British students that get involved in
No, not at all. No, we've had international students as well. In my experience, we've had people as far as my friend's returning. My friend from Newcastle is from Malaysia. She's returned to Malaysia this year after she graduated, but she's just said that she's going to be coming back. So that's quite a way to travel for what is a small week-long thing in Britain, tucked away in the countryside. So it's wonderful that we do invite people from all over the world. My Facebook friend list is very odd and varied.
Very odd and very odd and long and varied, yes.
With people from all over the world, and it's wonderful because you meet so many different people from so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds. I mean, even within England, but then stretching even further. Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite nice, I think, as well, that you get a little tour of the English countryside when you're walking. I mean, when you kind of go to, I imagine, as an international student, you're kind of stuck in your city and maybe travel out a few other times, but yeah, this is a good chance to get to know different people in Britain who aren't just from your university. And yeah,
that's great. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question now.
Okay.
I joined the one of the legs walking into Walsingham, so we arrive at Walsingham.
Yes.
So what happens actually when you arrive at Walsingham?
Sure. I mean, during the week we do have certain services and prayer time and reflection time, but when we arrive in Walsingham, it kind of steps up. It's the real the real high point of the whole week. So when we arrive, we all walk into the Slipper Chapel, which is about a mile out of Walsingham, and we all cheer each other in and really celebrate the fact that we've all got there. And then we all walk in together and process down what's the Holy Mile to get into Walsingham, and it's beautiful. Everyone's arriving, everyone's in really high spirits. It's a really, really moving time. We have a service on the Friday night in the Catholic Church. And on the Saturday, we have a service in the Methodist Church in Walsingham. We have our AGM, which determines volunteers for the following year and split out roles, especially, Student Cross is built up with volunteers, so people who choose to lead, we choose the people who lead the whole organisation. The head of the organisation is a volunteer who is elected. We have elections, and other, roles. So that's all determined for the following year. We decorate all the crosses with fresh flowers, which is beautiful. Some of them turn out so lovely, and it's really nice and creative. Ready for Mass in the evening, which is a service in the Catholic Church. And for this evening service, it's called the Easter Vigil Mass, which starts in the grounds of Walsingham, and we process through the streets with candles, singing and celebrating, to go to the Catholic Church. And often you see, it's really beautiful. You see people who live in Walsingham at their windows, and they wait to see us go past every year. And they do often say it's a really magical time for them, and it's like, oh, now Easter is here, now it's time. And after the late Mass, we have a big party. Each leg does, party pieces. We've got short sketches and songs, and we really celebrate Easter. It's a really fun time to see other legs as well, and meet other people that you haven't been walking with for the week, and see what everyone has to offer. It's really, really good fun. And on Sunday mornings, that's Easter morning, we have an Anglican service, followed by a short walk through Walsingham with our crosses with the flowers on, before we all go home to celebrate Easter and continue that spirit with our families and friends back home.
This is how much training do you have to do to take part?
Surprisingly little. I mean, as long as you've pretty much broken in the shoes that you're going to walk in, you're pretty much good to go. I mean, it does help to do maybe a few practice walks.
So is there any help available to pilgrims or people interested in walking?
Yeah, so the SCA, the Student Cross Association, was set up as a registered charity, actually, to help those from low-income backgrounds or students who need a bit more support in order to be able to walk, maybe financially, in order to travel to the starting destination or to get home, or for little bits of kit. We normally have a couple of spare sleeping bags, for example.
How does it fit into modern life? That's the one of the interesting questions.
I like how it fits. I like how it fits into my life. It's something that people, I mean, you can't see us on the radio, but I've got tattoos, I've got piercings. I'm what you would describe maybe a modern woman, and people just don't think, they're not like, oh, you don't come across as a Christian but it actually invites that conversation to happen with your friends and your friends and family, and co-workers. A common misconception is that we're all a bit bonkers for signing up to do something so challenging over what would be a nice relaxing holiday and bank holiday, but it acts as a retreat from modern life. If you approach it in that way, it kind of goes hand in hand with your busy life, and is a bit like a holiday or a retreat in that way. There's a really good balance of silent reflection and prayer, along with loads of fun and meeting new people. We sing as we walk, as we said previously. We've got trips to the pub. We talk about our own backgrounds and experiences, and we build.
Can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Trips to the pub.
Oh.
Letting out your secrets now.
Well, sometimes you need a little something to help you along your way. It'd be rude not to if you're going to pass all these nice country pubs. So yeah, occasionally we have a few trips to the pub. But in that way, it is part of modern life, and we'll go into some buildings and people are like, whoa, what are they doing? why are all these people here have been walking? And it builds up this wonderful communication and conversation with, the general public and people who haven't seen us before, but also people who live along our routes and who run out and say, we look forward to you passing every year. You are Easter to us. You're the sign that Easter's starting, which is lovely. You really learn how generous strangers are and how wonderful people can be. It's just something really wonderful, yeah.
Brilliant. So how can people find out more?
So just to find out more, we have a website, which is www.studentcross, or one word, .org.uk. So that's studentcross.org.uk. We are also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram now this year. So do come and follow us on our social media. Don't be afraid to ask some questions and have a little explore on our website. There are email addresses and other links via the website, and we do invite people to come and just ask questions. Even if you're not sure, if you're on the fence, just come and ask somebody. We're all friendly.
Brilliant. Alice, thank you very much for such an interesting talk.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome.